Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you have joined me today. And we are still in the beautiful month of January. I have grown to love January. It's a quiet repose, a sila after such busy autumn and Advent and Christmas festivities. Well, I am playing Felix Mendelssohn's famous violin concerto in E minor. It's so beautiful. And I think Itzhak Perelman is playing it today for us. I love this concerto. My daughter played this concerto, and I sat in many violin lessons with her great teacher, Helen, who has now gone on to heaven, Helen de Pestel Pagels, and she was a great teacher of violin. And then, of course, she had a wonderful accompanist, Mr. Jorgensen, and the accompanist is so important. And when an accompanist has worked with a teacher for over 20 years, they know all the great concertos and how to interpret. And he helped my daughter a lot. He had wonderful input and energy and support. And that's what I'm thinking about today. We all need so much support, moral support, physical support, loving emotional support to live a life that is worthy. And we can't do it alone. God put us on a road with others, didn't he? And I think I told you, the Jewish rabbi, we went to see the lighting of the wonderful menorah at the Olympia Capitol. And it was a cold, bitter cold December night. And finally it lit, and it was so beautiful. And the rabbi said, 2023 is the year of the gathering. And I thought, how beautiful, after all the COVID lockdowns and isolation that many have experienced, to have this be the year of the gathering. I think all of us have a deeper appreciation for coming together with others. I think we do, in live experiences. And I think that this violin concerto by Mendelssohn has so much love in it. He was a beautiful soul. He and his sister Fanny were both musicians, raised in German household, and they were actually Jewish, but their father had converted to Christianity before Felix Mendelssohn was born. So he was actually raised as a Christian, and he had, of all the composers I have studied, he had the most beautiful life. He had loving parents, a supportive family. He lived at a time when his music was appreciated and went out to others. I don't believe there was war at all during his lifetime, and he didn't have these deep moments of morose sadness and then the highs that many of them went from back down to up. He was an even happy. He ended up having a good marriage. And he went to Scotland too, which is very interesting. And he wrote some beautiful music that was inspired when he went to the Hebrides. And I think it's so interesting how the dramatic scenery of Northwest, Great Britain, and Scotland, up there in those islands, has inspired so many people to write gorgeous things. It's the drama, it's the waves. When we have a storm and we have a lightning and a thunder and we have a cozy fire and tea, it's inspiring, isn't it? When you're safe inside, it's inspiring, as long as you're not caught out in it. Well, I thought I want to go to a good tea room today, and I'm thinking of maybe going to an Austrian tea room or German tea room. Actually, when I was in Switzerland, up in the French Alps, they had the most wonderful, wonderful little tea room up in a ski lodge called Villars. It's up above the train. You stop at Eigel and you go up the hill to Wemo, a little Swiss village where Le Brie is, and then you keep going up to the top, and it's Villars, famous ski village. Now, when you come in on the train, you come around from Lausanne, and that's the end of Lake Geneva. And if you were to keep going on that train the other way, you could eventually get to Geneva, but you come to through along the lake, and you see the Chillon, Chillon, famous Chillon castle that sits there. And Lord Byron wrote the famous poem, The Prisoner of Chillon. Well, it's a medieval castle, and it sits right there, and that's how you know you get out there, right after you see that, in a little town on the train called Aigle. Well, when you get out, if you don't want to go up to Villars, you can go up the other side in a cable car, and it's called Champéret. And I love that name. And I went up there once with my sister, and we were up in the snow, and we had to wait for a train. And we were up, and I ordered coffee au lait, and I wrote a little poem, Coffee au lait in Champéret. So all over Europe are these darling little coffee shops, tea rooms, and everything is always so well thought out for a rest, a repose. They serve you so with such class. And I think up in Villars they had linen and silver, and what you would have was you would have a coffee I had a coffee in the afternoon, and they bring a little tray of petite fours, which are like little square cakes. And I liked the mocha cake. It was enough. The little mocha cake. Oh, I love that. And it was so inspiring. And you look out at over the Rhone Valley. And now that was French-speaking Switzerland. But then you go a little back to Bern, and you're in German-speaking Switzerland. And then if you go on the tip, you go to Italian-speaking Switzerland. It's 3 languages in a little mountain. But the mountains, I think, really, if I were to boil it down, Switzerland had to be one of my ultimate favorite places I've ever been in my life. It was quiet. The people were quiet. It just felt so clean, the mountain air, and I feel like that today. So I think we'll go not to Villars, not to Champéret. I think we'll stay on the train and go to Geneva. I feel like I'm dressed today to go to a city. And Geneva is where the United Nations International Building is. So it's an international town on the lake, and many international tea rooms, restaurants. And so I'm wearing a fur, some bright jewels, and I'm wearing a hat. And this hat this is a vintage, very old hat, and it has a jewel on it. And I have some jewels here. So it's cold, we want to have some sparkle and light. And I have a really special tea today for you. and for me. And I've chosen this cup. I love this cup. It reminds me of the German-French design. It's the romantic design. And it is pink. Let's see. Pink and gold with the man and the lady. There they are. Whoops. See, and I washed this and I actually dried it, but do you know it still dripped? So, and it has an iridescent mother of pearl lining. Whoops. Lining in it. I always like to wash my cups if I haven't used them for a while. It's a good idea. And then, well, I'm going to pick up my tray and show you. I don't have a very big camera here, so I had to put it on a tray like that. It's on a pedestal. And I have 2 pink carnations. And these are so sweet. And they are telling us that spring is coming, yes. Spring is on the way. And I have these little 2 carnations because they broke off. And it's kind of sweet how they broke off. I bought a bouquet yesterday of pink, white, red carnations. And I was getting ready to, it's on my table with a red vase. Kind of looking ahead to Valentine's Day, and I like carnations, they last a long time. And so I was getting ready, and I have someone special visiting me. Yes, little baby Cambria. And she saw me come in, and she was so excited, she grabbed the pink carnations and picked them. She's only 6 months old. And I said, well, we'll put them in a little vase. We won't lose them. We'll put them in a little vase and have it on the tea talk. And it's always fun to have a little vase of flowers. This is a fun little vase that I like to use. And it just gives a nice feeling. And I'm using a teapot that I really love. I really love this teapot. It is just so beautiful in its shape, I think, to my way of thinking. All of us have different taste, but I love the way this looks. It is like perfect shaped, round, and I just think it's so nice. So I chose that for today with my pink cup. I've just kind of been into pink a lot because we talked about pink is the color of 2023, magenta. And actually this cup I'm holding is a form of magenta. It's that purpley, it's a purpley pink. That's what it is. It's a purpley pink. So it has the blue tones. And I'm using really good British brisk tea. Do you recognize that song? Mendelssohn has so much love in his playing in his heart. Oh, beautiful. My goodness, this is good. Oh my goodness, this is so delicious. And this was my little cream pitcher, just a small silver. And I have a little tiny treat because we're trying not to eat too much in January. We want to get ready for spring. So these are little baby hazelnut Italian wafer cookies. Actually, very tasty. You know, I can have one of these and it's enough. Just one is enough, it really is. And when you have a lot of tea. Now when men come, and I have sons, so they're all men, and they don't eat one. They take handfuls. Yes. Oh my goodness, this is so delicious, this tea. Mendelssohn is responsible for actually discovering Johann Sebastian Bach. Now, isn't that interesting? Bach had been gone for 100 years, and the good musicians, they knew about his music, and his music was probably played in church, and the St. Matthew's Passion, St. John's Passion. But he had written so much, and Mendelssohn discovered his music and said, "This is so great. Has anyone looked at all of his music?" And it could be a funny story, but it's a sad story. He found a butcher in Bach's town using Bach music to wrap the meat with because there had been so much written. And he quickly rescued and rescued and rescued. We do not have all of Bach's music, which is unbelievable because there is so much written. I think I've told you that it has been said, if you sat at a desk, if I sat right now and started copying Bach's music, all of his music, it would take me 80 years to hand copy. There's that much. He wrote he would take even other people's music and transcribe it into, there's a beautiful piece written for oboe by an Italian composer that is very unknown, but Bach took it, turned it into violin, cello, and strings, and it's an adagio that is so gorgeous. I will play it for you next Tea Talk. And my dear friend who's a pipe organist, who also, faithful Jana, she accompanied all of my children through the years. And what an asset to have a good accompanist when you're playing these difficult pieces. You have to find someone that understands how to accompany a violin piece or a cello piece, because it is not just playing. It is a whole nother realm to support the person and be behind the person and understand how to accompany. It really is a gift. Well, Jana just recently shared with my other great violinist friend, Robin. We were having lunch. Robin also is one of these great teachers. The Power of One. She's been teaching probably for 50 years, still teaching. Her students have played in orchestras all over and still going. And she also taught several of my children when they were young. And Jana shared this. She said, I was driving down the street listening to Classical King, and this gorgeous adagio came on by Bach. She goes, for some reason, she had never heard it. And she fell in love with it. And she has a music app that copies music for her. So she's getting it copied, and we're going to all play it together. And I started thinking, without Felix Mendelssohn, we may never have had Bach the way we have him today, because Bach is looked to as the father of music. The way Martin Luther is looked to as the father of the Protestant Reformation, 1500, that changed the whole picture of the world, that's how Bach is. He took music and put it on a level, because when I went to Vienna, I was so amazed. It was Beethoven, Mozart, Mendelssohn, Chopin, Franz Liszt, Brahms. They all looked to Bach as the great one, their father of music. Isn't that just so deep? And Bach, his life was beautiful too. He had hardship, but he knew how to overcome and turn the lemon into lemonade. He truly did. He lost his parents when he was young and lived with an older brother who recognized Bach's genius and was jealous of him and would hide the music. And Bach would have to sneak out at night to copy the music. That's how they learned composition. And then he married a beautiful woman that he loved and had 8 or 9 children, and then she died. But he kept going, and then God brought him another wife, Magdalena, and she had more children. Altogether, 18 children. 9 of them lived to adulthood. And out of that came several other great composers, Johann Christian Bach and others. And all the way back on the Bach family, of all the way they could look back, were musicians. It took that many generations to create this genius. And his mother was pietist Christian. They were Lutheran in theology, and she was a pietist, which was a movement 3 generations after Martin Luther. The church had kind of grown cold, and there was a movement called pietism. And it was people getting back to the Bible, joining in prayer in the home, and reviving the heart of Christianity, not just the formal going through the motions. Well, Bach's mother was part of that movement. She was all heart, and she had a love for God. She passed that on to her son, even though she died when he was, I think, 12. He had that deep heart, and you can hear it in his arias and in his passions. One of the beautiful arias in the St. Matthew's Passion, you could go online if you want to study this and download the St. Matthew's Passion in English. Of course, it's written in German, but translated in English. And one of the arias that just when I was very young, I had a voice teacher, Jan Safarian in Tacoma. And she was my voice teacher. And she was singing in the St. Matthew's Passion that her husband, Dr. Safarian, that was the professor of violin at UPS and the conductor of the Tacoma Symphony at that time, was leading. And I got to go hear her perform. And she was singing as the soprano. Beautiful voice. And the song that touched me so deeply was in German, Gehabegenickt, Gehabegenickt, Jesu, Gehabegenickt. That means, Jesus, you are enough. Jesus, you are enough. I love the German simplicity, the lyrics in this, so beautiful. You will be touched. You will be deeply touched, because these people that created something as great as the St. Matthew's Passion, which was the story of, it was for Easter. It's the story of Christ according to St. Matthew. That's what St. Matthew's Passion is, the Passion of the Christ. And then he did the St. John's from the book of John. But the St. Matthew's is considered one of the greatest pieces of music, if not the greatest ever written. I heard a lecture, and you can get this online, Leonard Bernstein, the great New York symphony conductor of the last century. He gave this lecture and explained the St. Matthew's Passion. And he said, it's the greatest piece of music ever written. And that was Johann Sebastian Bach. Yes. So that's our heritage. That's what we have. And these people gave it. They gave their all. And then the people that kept it going, all the composers and all of the arrangers and all of the performers and the conductors and the music teachers and the parents that support the children and buy the instruments and the violin repairmen and the cello repairmen and the sacrifice parents make to get their children to a music lesson so that they can play. And then others benevolently have created music camps and music scholarships. And I was thinking of my daughter Elizabeth. She, the youngest, she played this Mendelssohn concerto as her piece to audition for college scholarships when she was a senior. And Dr. Baldwin, this wonderful conductor from Luther College, called her immediately. He said, I have listened to every note. I love your performance. Please come to our school. And he offered her a scholarship, and then she married a young man from the symphony, another violinist named Jeremy. And they are so close to this day to Dr. Baldwin. He is the most wonderful conductor, so personable. All the students love him. And he took them all on a tour of Vienna. And that's where my daughter ended up really getting to know Jeremy, and the rest is history. And music brings people together. And that's what my friend Robin and Jana and I having lunch this week, and we were talking about how did we meet? We met over, I think, my goodness, is it over 30 years ago? And we met actually through my firstborn daughter, Victoria, who was also playing violin at St. David's Episcopal in Shelton. Jana was the organist, and Robin it was her home church from her childhood. She had come down and performed and met, and we, from the beginning, we were kindred heart musical friends. Music brings people together, and if you want to give your children something that will connect them with the best people, I believe it's music, because it's a family, a small family, but a big family, and it interrelates and interacts. And here, lo and behold, Dr. Baldwin, who was back at Luther, had been a conductor at Central Washington University and was friends with all those professors. And then my kids, I don't know why, this is so interesting though, I had 4 kids at one time in the WSU, Washington State University Orchestra. And the violin professor there was Meredith. Well, I didn't know Meredith. I had never really met her. And my youngest daughter, Elizabeth, who was quite a bit younger than the other children, was 15, and she went to play for state. They go for adjudication and analysis and see if they can win a contest. Well, she was playing the Lalo Concerto, and here a lady was there as a judge. She yells out, "Another shoemaker! I didn't know there was another one." And lo and behold, it was Meredith, who had been teaching my other kids at Washington State. That's how small the world is. Then the story goes on. It's even greater than that. My dear friend Marilyn Jane Overman Beasley, when I first met her, we've known each other forever. And we played music together all over Seattle. She's a wonderful violinist. And she graduated from Seattle Pacific University. And actually took me to the first Suzuki camp. Mr. Suzuki himself was there. Well, come to find out, Marilyn, my friend, had taught Meredith as a little girl. When she was at college, Meredith's father was a professor at SPU and knew Marilyn and took her every week to the daughter. And Marilyn was her first teacher. This is how the world of music swirls. And there are other worlds like that too. I'm sure the art world is that way. And I know that, but it's so nice to be connected to good people. And I think everyone should be given a chance to play an instrument. It isn't to be the greatest or to be this and that. It's to have a skill for life and be able to play with others. And the best playing, I think, actually, is in the home. Yes, if you have a chance to perform on a stage, that's great. But you know, when you study people like Mendelssohn and Bach, the majority of their music was done at home with the family around the piano. And then out of that came this great music and great performance, and that's wonderful. But you can take your instrument and play at a retirement home or at a nursing home for others, or join in with others. And another thing is, it is never too late to take up an instrument. It's not. My husband is a bass player and upright classical bass and folk bass and guitar, but he's been playing the banjo for the last, I guess, 7 years, and he loves it. And he said, it's interesting, he has a blood pressure test. When he plays his banjo, his blood pressure goes down. Isn't that good? It's healthy. Music is healthy. It gets out. And my voice teacher, Jan, I'm talking about Jan Safarian, she said the singers live the longest. So she goes, 2 hours or 1 hour of correct vocalization, singing, breathing, singing correctly is worth 2 hours of aerobic exercise. And yet it doesn't strain your muscles because you use your whole body to sing. And now with online, you can get lessons online to learn how to sing and breathe correctly so you're not straining your voice. There are a lot of tutorials. My husband really learned the banjo online from tutorials that he signed up for. Yes, it's a wonderful thing. It's never too late. And singing is the best of all. And you know, I will close with a story I heard from the conductor of the Seattle Symphony a few years ago. And he said, you know, we will play our music as a rehearsal to an empty hall. And he said, it will sound good and it will be all right. But he said, then when the audience comes and the people come and the energy comes, people, there's a power that comes out of our music and out of our instruments, and it's just so amazing. And that's the in-person gathering, the relating together, playing music with people in person, singing in person. The vibration of a string, you know, I'm sure, yes, we hear it online, and I love recorded music, but when you hear a violin in person, there's a vibration. And Bach said, the violin has a capacity. When you draw the bow on the string, it goes straight to the human heart. It can heal. It can bring solvent and comfort and really heal the heart and the mind and bring such oil. That's what Bach knew, the power of the string, the vibration, the bow. Well, I'm so happy you've joined me today. And for our little going out together, I brought a little purse. It's a little metallic black purse. And I think it's perfect for just going for a coffee together to a little German or French. You can choose what you want, a German or French cafe or Austrian. And I know that they're treats. There is something about the treats in Europe. People try to do it here. I've never tasted a little cake ever like I've tasted in Europe. So hats off to the Europeans. Sometimes in Canada, you'll find it. Canada kind of has the best of Europe, the best of America blended. And each country has their contribution. Yes, each country does. But the coffee in Italy, the best. Oh my, yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you want to look up any of these people, read about Felix Mendelssohn. He's very beautiful person. Study Johann Sebastian Bach. Add to your bed of knowledge. Have people in and listen to a piece and discuss it. It will just take you to the next level. We want to move forward in life, don't we? We want to gain understanding of that which is good, of that which God has provided for us. He's given it all to us, and we can give it back through giving it to others. Well, I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you enjoy your tea. And of course, make sure to share it with someone else, because there are others that need encouragement, many others. And you can give them something. You can give them a cup of tea. God bless. And I will look forward. Oh, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Please write a comment if you feel so led. And please push the like button if you've liked it. and share with someone else. Cannot do this without you. So until next time, God bless and have a fabulous week.